But over the last couple of years, one thing I've come to realize that as much as we talk about social entrepreneurship and social enterprises, the motivations behind why people do this kind of things, you find the issues being addressed by social entrepreneurs also are different. You find the social enterprise UK or the Scottish, I don't know whether the Scottish now is together with the social enterprise UK. When you look at the kind of enterprises they are starting to address the social challenges, there could be some slight differences as opposed to what we are addressing here. Because here now, people have a challenge access to water, access to electricity, people have a problem of access to health. You know, very basic, you know, the Maslow hierarchy. You know, we are still at the physical level, and that's where a lot of social enterprises are addressed. Whereas maybe even in South Africa to a degree, but when you look at Europe, Asia, I visited the Social Enterprise Association of Singapore, and they were saying they have money, the government has allocated money for the starting of social enterprise, but the problem is that people are saying, what social problems are there in Singapore for us to address with the social enterprise funds? You see, so because they are at a different point, they are at a very different level than we are. And like I said, that I know we are heading towards lunch, but some of the things I'm going to show here, maybe some of you might find them maybe a bit of what we want to see, but I think it's just in the process of learning. One of the things we want to do is parallel. One country, different lives. It could be one world, different lives, whereby most of you, which is your normal area of operation, left or right?
Left.
As tourists, right.
As tourists, right? As ordinary guys, left. That's a nice the hierarchy. Okay, and that you can see now the contrast. If we go to the next one. One people, different homes. Again, after here, where we go? Left or right?
Right is still left.
In the middle. Trust the academicians. Trust the academicians. They say the middle. The same grammar. Okay. Again, another contrast. Next. Okay, same problem, different solutions. Those of you who know Nairobi, and I think this could be any city in Africa, you'd find that what you find quite often is that we have this kind of structure. Think inside the central business district, isn't it?
Yes.
This reminds us of some of the things that happened in Nairobi. And later on, I'll be so you look at these.
Sorry, try.
Oh,
back.
I'll talk here. I'll refer back. You can see the Eco toilets. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go on there. And then context of social enterprise. You could see here on the top level here, that's like Kibera. I think, is it the largest slum in Africa or in East Africa or in the world? Yeah, one of the largest slums. And then you have somebody who is about to commit suicide. You know? Why? Or maybe somebody who looks very, very hopeless. Somebody else is begging. The Red Cross, isn't it? In Kenya, when there is a disaster, who do we call?
Red Cross.
Kenya government? No. Ministry of Special Programs? We call? The Red Cross. We have given a responsibility, and everything about disaster in Kenya now is the Red Cross. Of course, you have a nice home, and the guy there, you know, big business, capitalism. I love myself, and that's all that matters. And these again are contrasts that we have. Next. New ideas. Of course, we have the M-Pesa. We have Equity Bank. We have the appropriate technology here with what are we here, and people are doing oil press. We have the solar energy. I think these again are new ideas that are coming to address what we've seen previously, isn't it? Yeah. And these again are very, very big. Lots of things happening. I think now, Michael Joseph, after retiring from Safaricom, we even gave him a job to revolutionize our tourism sector, making chairman of Kenya Tourism Development Corporation. But he still resigned and went back to Vodafone, isn't it? Yes. I think they had of mobile money and things like that. But it has created a lot of opportunities, not only in Kenya but globally, you know, because of the social innovation around the mobile phone. Equity Bank and what is done as far as access to banking services, another technology that are being promoted by Kickstart and others. Yes. So how do we create a new world where all are different but all are equal? Sorry guys from other countries, this is our flag. If you didn't also anytime you see this is Kenya. But what you're saying that, you know, the flag is supposed to bring people together, isn't it? Maybe the UN flag could be what tries to bring people together, maybe as the United Nations, and all of us hold together. And I think that's what we're trying to talk about. How do we create equity? You're saying South Africa is one of the most unequal society, you know, South Africa, I mean, Brazil, even in Kenya, you know, very huge, disparate. Why do you need to make $1 billion, then give 1% as CSR? Or, you know, how do you help people?
To remove guilt.
To remove guilt. Guilt offering. So how do we achieve this? Okay? We'll, now, imagine, and I've just shared some 3 quotes here from David Bornstein, from Professor Yunus, and Bill Drayton. And what business entrepreneurs are to the economy, social entrepreneurs are to social change. They are the driven, creative individuals who question the status quo, exploit new opportunities, refuse to give up, and remake the world for the better. I think Muhammad Yunus is not the one who found microfinance. Microfinance used to be there, but what happened? He gave it some impetus, isn't it? He did something. He was a university professor. You know? He did something different. And you know, the same case to us here seated here. We are professors, we are directors, we are heads of businesses. What do we do that is completely out of the norm, that will make people start thinking, maybe there is something about that. I think in finance that's what we talk about, herding mentality. You know, the lead goats or the lead sheep. When it goes this way, all the goats. So when I think Muhammad Yunus would have done the same thing, and that's what Bornstein is referring to. And Yunus saying, I'm encouraging young people to become social business entrepreneurs and contribute to the world rather than just making money. Making money is no fun. Contributing to and changing the world is a lot more fun. What change are we creating? I think now we are talking about entrepreneurship, which puts the entrepreneur at the center stage. You know, and then you get some little things, you throw them up and there, you know, paint a classroom here and there, give a wheelchair there and here and there, but then not much. But after some time you find making money, I think you get bored with it. Probably that's why you call your life investment banking. You know, after making all the money, then you feel, what next?
I wish.
Bill Gates after making all the millions, what next? Still at Melinda Gates Foundation. So I think there is a, it's like some, you reach a point and then you find, you know, next. You know, and I think that's what Professor Yunus was referring to. Social entrepreneurs are not content just to give a fish or a shark to fish. They will not rest until they have revolutionized the fishing industry. I think in entrepreneurship we say we are teaching people how to fish. But the issue is, yes, you teach people how to fish, yes. In Kenya, for example, Kikuyus, a community from central Kenya, have been taught how to grow fish in ponds. But the problem is, there is no market for the fish.
They don't eat it.
But now they have a lot of it, they can't eat fish all the time. But the issue is that how do we revolutionize the fishing industry? So we are looking at the ecosystem, we are looking at the setup of a sector. And I think that's what social entrepreneurs do. How do you revolutionize? Yunus will revolutionize microfinance. Okay? We are saying people like Ashoka and other enterprises are revolutionizing the social enterprise sector. We have Bill Gates, maybe he came back in the ICT sector. We are seeing other in the social media. You know, people revolutionizing a particular sector. What kind of revolution are we? And that's the whole issue about social entrepreneurship. It's not just a single act, but that act changing a lot of things in the way we see things. Okay? So social entrepreneurs, they recognize a social problem, but they use an entrepreneurial approach to solve that problem. Okay? And whereas the social enterprise, basically the enterprises they start. I would like to look at the triple bottom line of financial, environmental, and social returns, whereby you don't make so much money at the expense of the environment, you don't make so much money at the expense of social well-being. Because you could be a billionaire, yes, peddling drugs. What is the cost? I know most of you here like your glass of wine, your glass of beer, and things like that. But, and sometimes even the cigarette manufacturers, they say you pay so much into tax money, isn't it? But I don't know whether we know what is the costs to the government in terms of cigarette-related complications. They mean that because of smoking, or the cost as a result of drug and driving and all that. So we are seeing that we look at all kinds of trade-offs. So we are seeing that we don't want to look at the financial, environmental, and social returns. That's social entrepreneurship. That's and we have some of the social entrepreneurs. We recognize this gentleman at the top here. Those from Kenya might know him. Anybody can place the name to discuss? David Kuria of the Eco Toilet.
Dynamic dog.
Ainame kidogo. So that's David Kuria. David is an acclaimed social entrepreneur. He's the one behind the brand, the Eco Toilet brand. He changed he's revolutionizing sanitation, not just here but across Africa. Then you have Ingrid Mugro of Jamii Bora, you have Evans Wadongo of Sola, and then you have Professor Yunus. Just a few of the people who are playing, active in this sector. Okay.
Carlo, where's your picture?
Sorry?
Where's your picture?
I'm live.
I thought Korea too was.
Sorry?
Korea is right.
I'm saying my picture is not because I'm here.
That's
I'm saying I'm live. Yeah, I'm the live picture. Yes, it's alive. Korea is alive. Then you have Jamii Bora, we have Greenbelt. You remember with the Greenbelt movement, we have the Eco Toilet here. I think where, I don't know, those of you from Kenya, anybody in Kenya who has never been to inside an Eco Toilet? If you have not, just me. You have not, maybe don't leave the city before, if you are not from the city before you visit one. Okay. There you can get all things. You can see here what happens. There is always a shop. You can get bananas, you can get a drink, soda and all that. You can get M-Pesa. You can have your shoes cleaned. Okay. If you go somewhere and eat, if you go to Hilton and eat, then later on you feel uncomfortable and there's no room nearby, you just go to an Eco Toilet, you pay some money. It's very clean. So it is, he changed the toilet aspects in the city. We don't have to. Okay. So he's one of the acclaimed people who have done this. And it's not that Kuria is a guy who did water and sanitation stuff. Actually, Kuria is an architect. But this is the thing that has changed. Okay. The challenges facing the social enterprises, one is limited access to appropriate finance. When I talk about appropriate finance, if you listen to Kuria, when he was looking for financing for the Eco Toilets, all banks could not understand what he was talking about. How do you make money from toilets? It was Acumen Fund actually which agreed to financing, because Acumen Fund focuses on social enterprises. And therefore he was able to move on with the idea. Inappropriately go and regulate the framework. We have a framework that really recognizes social enterprises. In UK right now, I think there is a legislation trying to talk about the social enterprise or the public value enterprises, and such that you can recognize this as a unique sector. We don't have it here. Staffing problems. Sometimes people don't understand that. How do you combine entrepreneurship with social focus? So getting somebody with a blend of skills. Then limited knowledge about social enterprises. Not many people really know about. Some have the practice, but they don't have the theory. And again, they will give that theory. Inappropriate business development services. You get somebody who is an entrepreneur, like say an entrepreneurship consultant working with the commercial enterprises, then trying to work with the social enterprise, but not understanding the two aspects. Because you're looking at three aspects, the financial, social, and environmental returns. How do you balance that? But you're used to a single bottom line, just financial. And then the lack of a social enterprise network, which is one of the things that we are trying to address with the East Africa Social Enterprise Network. Actually, these were the research questions for the research I did that led after the formation of the network. These were some of the things that we're trying to look at. And in Africa, we, not in an area of study, but currently South Africa, maybe, and Kenya have courses in the subject. We have Tangaza College together with Catholic University of Milan. They have an MBA in social entrepreneurship. They are doing the second time this year. I don't know any other person teaching social entrepreneurship in Kenya. KC University have been trying to develop a certificate course in social entrepreneurship. I think even university professors and lecturers, maybe right now there is some interest in the area, but not so much. Major support to the sector comes from outside Africa. You find a lot of people right now dealing with social entrepreneurship actually. They are not necessarily from Africa, it's actually outside. Africa Social Entrepreneurs Award, but are done by the Sword Foundation. You have others by Ashoka, the normally nominated fellows, Acumen Fund, all of them basically external. We had the global social venture competition I started last year, but from India and I think from I can't remember what university in the US. So you find a lot of stuff. Even Kojo is an import to Africa, but it doesn't tell you that.
It's a re-import.
Sorry?
It's a re-import.
A re-import to Africa.
They were exported many years ago.
Yeah. Now yeah. Okay. So you find now there is no internally developed support that is actually driving the sector. A lot of focus on traditional entrepreneurship by government and private sector. Right now there's a huge drive towards the traditional entrepreneurship, not social entrepreneurship. And I think that's why probably you find nobody is thinking about social entrepreneurship. Then major players yet to agree to work together. You find everybody is doing his or her own thing. Okay, so you don't have people coming together through a central network. When we have the social enterprise world forum, but you don't find some of the major players, either Skoll or Schwab, or rather some of the global universities maybe not really keen to come together, and that's a challenge. The limited knowledge and acquisition of social enterprises is still not there, and that perception that social enterprise is actually CSR. It's not really a form of business, it's just another kind of what? It's a reinvention of the corporate social responsibility. And therefore there is no need for a specific focus on the same. And we have limited documentation on size, focus, and results. I think that's why for us, the Trickle Out project is a very good project because it's providing some information that's helpful because now we have a directory that we can refer to. And that can help inform dialogue and discussions around this area. And I think also it's very nice that we have many universities here, particularly from Kenya now, that we know as far as Bondo, somebody can do something. I think the only people we don't have maybe is from Coast. Yeah. I don't know if we have anybody from Coast, but I think this is very, very nice for us because now we know when people go back, it starts becoming more and more. I think 2010, when we were launching the East Africa Social Enterprise Network, most people will say social what? But right now, at least we see that there's a very big change in terms of understanding of what it is. Isn't formed as a result of research factors influencing the development of social enterprises in Kenya, and which form of network would help grow the sector. So when I did the research and I graduated from Jomo Kenyatta, the Master of Science in Entrepreneurship, that's when I said maybe this is a good area to focus on. And I think 2 years down the road, still feeling that the challenge is people still are yet to really accept and will come together and maybe drive it. But again, some of these initiatives like Trickle Out projects are helpful thing because it kind of affirms that actually there is a need to have all the people come together so that you can talk even to the appropriate people. And these are the goals that we have: recruit, retain, and serve members. So I hope all of you are going to join membership. Up to now it's still free, but we are thinking we start charging so that we separate the sheep from what? Because I'm also maybe make some little money. Business development services, we help a bit with business development. I think Bev was talking about ILO. We've been in touch a lot with the ILO in South Africa, and there are some tools they have which we use here also. Mobilize financial and other resources help. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, the access to appropriate finance is a big challenge because people don't understand. I know the social and environmental returns. How do you even calculate that? And now there are so many global activities going on towards issues of finance. Last year, Kenya, they launched the Kenya Social Investment Exchange. Anybody ever heard about the Kenya Social Investment Exchange? No. You have some people have heard about it. So we were part of helping to establish the Kenya Social Investment Exchange. And there are others that people are coming up with. Advocacy basically is talking to whoever is willing to listen about the need for this advisory and expert services. We do trainings on social entrepreneurship and even giving talks to universities, to institutions, and even conferences. And our focus is Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi, South Sudan, based on the mandate of the East African Community. Our thinking is we didn't want to call it Kenya Social Enterprise Network because sometimes I don't think they did Uganda or Tanzania, but sometimes felt that we start with Kenya, then we start pushing it to the other countries. So we say now we have East African Community, let us be East Africa, and that's the whole other way from Uganda.
It's very interesting that approach. Like there was a session I attended in Tanzania. Anything originating from Kenya, no, should not be from Kenya.
And the way we do this, the network, is that it's not that we give them money to start, it's that we share the idea with people who are interested, who are passionate, and then they take off. That's what has happened now in Uganda, and we want to do the same case with the countries. And globally, we have the social entrepreneurship and social enterprises, new ideas and organizations. We have Europe, USA, Canada, and us ahead. Latin America, Africa, and Asia just starting. I think Europe, USA, Canada, Australia, maybe they are a bit ahead in terms of networking. Latin America, Africa, and Asia, probably not as much. We have the Social Enterprise World Forum, which is supposed to bring now together all people in the social entrepreneurship, social enterprise sector together in a forum. And the first one was in Scotland, then we went to Australia, then we went to US, and last year was in South Africa. And I think this gave a very big advantage to South Africa, probably, by virtue of hosting it. Okay, and having the government got involved. Maybe that, I don't know, maybe Bev and Kojo and the other can tell whether really there's a big shift, but I would think that maybe there is. Okay? And the Social Enterprise World Forum this year will be held in Rio, in Brazil, in October. So those of you who are here, I'm going to be interested to go between Rio de Janeiro, I think October around 15th or thereabout. Okay, can give you information. When you look at the Social Enterprise Network globally, we have one international social enterprise steering team. That's the one that tried to put together the Social Enterprise World Forum, which has representatives from South Africa, UK, Scotland. I think it is Gary Higgins is from Scotland.
Sorry?
Is it Gary Higgins?
Yes,
He's the one who is the chair, I think.
yeah.
Then we have US. And I think the last social enterprise, what I was telling them now, we need the representation from Sub-Saharan Africa. I don't know. South Africa, is it Sub-Saharan? No. No. So I think Africa is not represented. Because Africa is not represented in the international social enterprise area. But you have many individual global initiatives. For example, I was talking about the Sport Forum and Show Up and others. Now, country regional networks, for example, we have the Social Enterprise UK, and I think this maybe provides one of the big networks, very strong, and I think very, very local in UK. Social Enterprise Alliance in the US, we have the Social Enterprise Network in Asia, the Social Enterprise Council of Canada, then you have the ASEN in South Africa. And Kojo is one of the people who they came up with ASEN. And then we have many others, and some yet to start. Actually, in Africa now, we can say East Africa Social Enterprise Network and Africa Social Entrepreneurs Network. Probably maybe those are the two well-known maybe networks. Others are emerging: Ghana, Nigeria. One also starting up in Cairo, in Egypt. Okay. So again, you can see lots of opportunities in this respect. But all these networks, we are not very well. I think Kojo and others have tried and including ourselves trying to see how do we bring everything together. But because again, even at the grassroots level, at home level, it's still not yet there. So even thinking about it from a Pan-African perspective becomes a challenge. I think that's the same problem Nkrumah and the other space to coming up with a Pan-African movement, you know, that countries themselves are not strong, you know, charity begins at home. And currently, some of the things we are doing is supporting social enterprise entities and facilitators. For example, the Trickle Out. I think we've been in touch with Diane since last year, and as this project is unrolling. Kenya Social Investment Exchange, you know, the Social Enterprise World Forum. We work with many different institutions in Uganda, in Kenya, and just giving things on this area. We've developed a program we are calling the Promise. That's program of mentorship and internship in social entrepreneurship. We hope to launch it soon. And I would encourage those of you from universities. I would be happy to discuss with you how we can even start with a small group of students and work with them towards being strong or interested in social entrepreneurship. And start forming what we call the Promise Clubs, basically focusing on the social entrepreneurship. And it doesn't have to be students who are doing business. Because like you're saying, Dr. Igak here is a physicist. Now look at where he is. Kojo was engineering, isn't it? Now look where he is. Kuria was an architect. Look where he is. So it has nothing to do with what? That it's for business school students. No. As long as they can have an interest in converting social problems into solutions. We do awareness programs, for example, breakfast meetings, we have conferences or dinners, we give talks to different fora that you can get. One-on-one networking and linkages, we link a lot of people. I think now anybody coming from abroad or wherever, they normally come to us, ask us for information, for contacts, for who we need to improve. I think sometimes the demand is just too high. And just me and the board, sometimes it's challenging. Then advocacy and representation, and information sharing and distribution. These are some of the things that we are trying to do. And what next? Yeah. I hope all of you are going to become members of EASN, and that probably there will be more interest in the research that we can do. There are lots of questions. Okay, there are lots of questions about this. But I think, again, there are lots of opportunities that we can get from. For me, it's just something that grew out of interest, and I think it's a very, very interesting area. Very, very broad. Okay? Lots of questions, sometimes, and answers that we have. One thing I can say is that we've not yet been able to find a very, very strong champion who can drive the agenda, I think, in the East Africa region to work with us. And I think that's maybe South Africa, I think, because of the ILO and now the government have been maybe at the universities now, number of universities, maybe that's one of the good things. And I hope that will also happen here in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.